Okay, that's great. I'm going to wait for a minute for Jessica to get settled. And we'll do a quick voice check so that you can hear everyone. And then we'll make a start, okay?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry, Manuela. I think what you need to do is go into the icon like a headphone, right? And you can turn me up there. Just turn me up individually, and you should hear me very loudly. Which most people can hear me, so I think that if you can't, that will help you to hear me. Okay, so it's one of your icons. It's called Nearby Voice, volume controls for calls and people near you in world. And you just turn my voice up. Okay, if Mandel can't hear that, perhaps someone close to him could explain it. Okay, Jessica, you all ready to go?
I think I'm ready to go.
Okay, so let's make a start. Hello, everyone. There's an awful lot of you. Thank you very much for coming today to this, the first of our Meet the Linden talks. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Oz Linden. And we're going to be, this is one of a series of talks that we will be having here in the Dreamatorium. We're having 5 Linden talks over the next 5 days. We have Oz Linden today, we have Patch and Ziola Linden tomorrow, we have Ziola Linden, we have Pete and Dee Linden on Wednesday, we have Danger and Troy Linden on Thursday, and we have Ebe Linden on Friday. In addition to that, every day we have talks at 9 a.m. Meet the Non-Profit, at 3 p.m. Meet the Designer, at 4 p.m. Meet the Artist, and at 5 p.m. Meet the Community. If you can attend any of these talks, or hopefully all of them, you'd find some really fascinating people and groups and activities that you may not have realised happen in Second Life at all. But at this point, we have Oz Linden joining us here. And Oz, you are, I believe, Chief Engineer on Linden Lab on Second Life.
Well, I'm the Director of Engineering, so I manage the engineers who bring you Second Life.
And I believe your background was in coding. Oh, before I get any further with Oz, I should explain I'm joined here today by Jessica Lyon as well, who is going to talk to Oz with me. Jessica Lyon, of course, is a person who runs Firestorm, the very popular viewer. How do you describe your title, Jessica?
Just project manager, herder of cats.
That's a very common role in Second Life, yes.
It is, yes.
Okay, so Oz, yes, you have a background in coding, I believe, before you came to the lab.
Oh yes. I've done various kinds of communications and internet programming for longer than I care to admit.
And that included voice over Internet Protocol, didn't it?
Right. My last job before joining the lab was a good long stint doing voice over IP phone systems and phones, and working on the protocol is called SIP, session, but it's how most voice over IP works on the internet, and that was very educational, but not nearly as much fun as Second Life.
Probably not as challenging, I bet, either.
Well, it depends on, your perspective, I guess. It's harder to stay motivated than it is on Second Life.
You find it easier to stay motivated on Second Life?
Oh, very, very much. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big success on working on a voice over IP product is that you can make a phone call, which, is really, no matter how hard it is technically to get it to work reliably and have all the features you want it to have, it's just not anything anybody's going to get excited about. Whereas here, I get to do things that, people create all kinds of wild and crazy and interesting and unpredictable things with what we do. And that's just an endless challenge. It's great.
And I understand what you do has changed a lot in Second Life over the years as well.
Yeah, quite a bit. I came to Second Life because I wanted to find something, a more fun set of challenges and a more fun environment to work in, and just stumbled into it because I had a former colleague who was at the lab, and I wrote to her and asked for if there was anything interesting going on, and she hooked me up with the then vice president of engineering, who was trying to hire someone to take over the open source program, which is what I did for exclusively for the first couple of years. But my role kind of evolved from that as the open source program got more together, and our relationship with third-party viewers got better and better. I found I had time to work on other things, and branched out into doing other kinds of development within the lab, and eventually ended up in the role I'm in now.
Which is?
Well, I manage, what's going on. Unfortunately, I don't get as much time to write code as I would like.
You heard cats. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I do. It may be true that I have a little more leverage over the cats that in my herd than you do over the
Yeah, all I have is
cats in
cat
your-
traits.
but actually, I've got a terrific team. I'm really, really fortunate to have a bunch of engineers who are working on Second Life because they want to be working on Second Life. They enjoy the product. They are enthusiastic about the product. They find the work challenging, and this is what they want to be doing. And it's just a great team to work with.
So the last time I spoke to you, the last time we talked, I think, was when you were introducing materials to the grid. We did a Designing World show about that. How do you feel that's gone?
I think it's gone really well. I think there's still some misunderstandings that people have about how expensive they are, and they turn them off, and that's a little bit of a shame, because a lot of stuff that I've seen people use them for in Second Life is just amazing, and it's really wonderful to have that around. It's been a quite stable feature, actually. Relatively few problems, which is great.
I think that's one of the challenges, is balancing new features with the hardware that people are using, and trying to create features that work equally across all platforms.
Very much so. Right. That's definitely an issue. And from time to time, we get people who say, why don't you do this or that incredibly glorious visual thing? And we look at it closely, and the people who I trust and rely on to tell me how well that's going to work, will sometimes come back and say, yeah, that'll be really terrific for about 5% of Second Life users, and for everybody else, it will be a complete disaster or nothing. Those features we usually have to pass on.
Right. But, I mean, that's the thing, that the way that Second Life residents have been so inventive now, it's almost as though you've got anything that you introduce impacts on someone in what must be a fairly unexpected way.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's certainly true. Pretty much anything we do, we can count on some people loving it, many people being indifferent to it, and some people disliking it.
Vociferously.
Well, I mean, the degree of enthusiasm all around is very high, one way or the other. It's actually one of the things that those of us who work on Second Life, and especially those of us in engineering, find kind of motivating, really, is that it's whether somebody's criticizing what we're doing or praising us for what we're doing, their level of intensity tells us that they really care about the product we're working on. And that, engineers like to build things people want to use. That's what makes us tick. It's no fun to build something that no one cares about. And people certainly care about Second Life, which is terrific.
When there was the announcement of the development of the Second Life grid, you said very firmly you were very happy to carry on working on the Second Life part of it, and were actually quite excited about the new opportunities. Do you think that still holds true?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I more so than ever. I'm really enjoying doing this. I can't imagine wanting to work on anything else right now. We've got a lot of great stuff going on, and we'll be bringing out a lot of terrific new features and changes that I think Second Life users are really going to like.
It can be very difficult to predict what people will like and what people don't like. I remember years ago when one of the third-party viewers created breast physics, and I thought, what a stupid thing. Nobody's going to like that. And obviously it became ridiculously popular overnight. It was instant. And yet you can have other features where you're fully anticipating everybody's going to be ecstatic about this feature, and it turns out that most people couldn't care less. It's funny how things go. Oz, do Lindens get discouraged when you come out with a feature that is heavily criticized?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we sometimes, it's a bit of a challenge to understand why what it is we're doing is heavily criticized. I don't think there have been any since very, very early in my tenure at the lab that have been very unpopular, except for those that, for whatever reason, cause some kind of performance problem or bug for a significant population of people, and that's understandable, right? If we've broken something, and
oh, you crashed? You've disappeared. I wonder if we can get these two next to me to disappear as well.
Yeah. I'm only seeing one. I'm only seeing Marianne at the moment.
Thank you, Uchi.
Thanks. I'll send you a TP.
Oz crashed, folks. He's on his way back here. Just a second.
Okay, did you get that?
There you go. Turn on your SL voice again now.
You've got your white
Oh, yeah.
dots.
There we go.
You'll be able to. Great. Okay, so we were just talking about...
Being discouraged. Yeah.
Yeah, being discouraged.
you probably crashed.
Yeah, that's. I have to say that's the one thing that that I find very challenging. Having come from a world where having where if you only have 99.99
The whole grid had to be shut down.
predates me by a good bit, I'm afraid.
I do remember it, unfortunately. Do you have time? What do you do, like, in your off time? Like, do you spend time in Second Life as not Oz Linden? Or do you do like the Abby does and go around as Oz Linden and just meet
Actually, almost all the time that I spend in Second Life, I spend as Oz Linden. People seem to enjoy it when Lindens show up.
They do.
And my role as open source director when I started, I thought was enhanced by developing a rapport and being visible. And so I as one of the things you get when you get a job at Linden Lab and you get a Linden avatar, obviously, is you also get a premium avatar that is not visibly associated with being a Linden. And so I have one. I'm not sure I remember the password to that account, actually. And I have another one that I had from a few years before I joined the company. And I occasionally use that one, mostly for testing, actually, when I need another avatar. But most of the time I spend recreationally in Second Life, and there isn't. I'll be straight up about it. It isn't a lot of time that I do that. I spend as a tourist. I just wander around. I literally play the pick a random spot on the map and teleport there and see what's there.
That's what I used to. Actually, that's a fun pastime. I think a lot of people have done is I called it sim surfing, where you just open up the map, drag it somewhere, and click and just land in somebody's private space. Unfortunately, that does happen. Yes. But as a Linden, I suppose that would probably be welcomed by most people, or they think they're in trouble.
When I first started, I used to get much more anxious responses than I seem to get these days. These days, people are just happy to see us. I don't know if that's a change in the population or just a random effect, but it used to be true that I would drop in somewhere and a shopkeeper would be worried about my presence. Have I done something wrong? Kind of thing. I described it as being like going around in the world as Brad Pitt with a DEA flak jacket on. People weren't sure whether they should be excited to see you or afraid. But these days, it mostly seems to be excited, actually.
Well, that's nice.
I think so, yeah.
So you have no sort of Second Life hobbies? Like you don't play greedy or golf or sail? Or...
Oh, come on. We know you play Linden Realms.
I have. I usually try each of the new experiences that roll out, and I have been trying some of the ones people have been building with our beta release of experiences for users. I'm not much of a builder. I'm not a real artistic person. In fact, I can't even take full credit for the appearance of Oz Linden. When I was setting up the account, I handed the appearance editor to my son and said, please see if you can make this look a little bit like me, the face and so forth.
I helped you build your bear. Tell me you've made a new version.
No, I haven't made a new version.
Oh, come on. You were going to make a new version.
No, yes, I keep saying I'm going to make a mesh bear, but I haven't done it.
Well, I have to say I'm thinking shoes here.
Shoes, yes. You're lacking in shoes. Can
Yep.
Oz, let me get your son's name, and I'm going to tell him about mesh feet.
Well, he's working on his dissertation these days, so I don't want to distract him.
Well, it sounds like you need to go shopping.
Well, people keep threatening to take me shopping, so I'm not much of a shopper even in the real world.
Yeah, we could take it.
Sort of, yeah.
I'll be happy to take recommendations. I'll be happy to go shopping sometime.
Yes. We could make a TV show out of it. Taking Oz, it's like Oz the remake.
There we go.
What not to wear.
And you
SL version.
You would still be comfortable with yourself. We could make you look like yourself, but better.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to do that sometime. I'm sure that would be fun.
Your
or
avatar
funny,
is
or both.
Okay, so I was going to ask, can you tell us anything about what you're looking forward to in Second Life, without obviously giving away any trade secrets?
Well, let's see. I want to leave most of the leaking to Ebbe because he seems to enjoy it.
He's allowed to.
I think we're gonna get experiences out real soon, and I think people are going to be very happy about how we're doing it. So that will be very cool. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what people do with that. I think that will take a little time. But it's going
That's going to need some real documentation because a lot of people won't understand it.
Right. Well, I mean, there is some documentation. If you're a scripter, I think it's pretty good documentation. But I think that will be really cool. And we've got some other projects coming that are genuinely new stuff for Second Life that you would not have guessed we would ever do. Let's just say that. So, not in the next few weeks, but it's coming.
Well, that sounds
exciting.
tantalizing. Yeah.
It was meant to be. I'm not giving any hints, though. We are working with some residents under NDA to work on that.
Excellent.
Okay.
So, who are the residents?
No.
So we can go and pump them. No, we wouldn't do that. So, the new grid, of course, is advancing. Do you have anything to do with that, or are you just completely focused on Second Life? I
actually make a point to studiously ignore what's going on with Project Sansar. We regularly have internal development milestone demos in-house. I don't go to them unless they're at all hands company meetings, which they generally have some level of little demo at those. And I am the first to admit that it's what they're doing is really cool. I think it's going to be amazing. But I kind of make a point not to pay too much attention to it. Second Life is more than enough to keep me busy.
Are you intending to stay working on Second Life in your current role?
I have no plans to change jobs at all. I'm loving my job. So this is terrific. If the people who are optimistic about how Project Sansar is going to work out are right, and it turns out to be so amazing and so attractive that everyone immediately leaves Second Life and moves to the new thing, then I'll probably be out of a job, but or have to find a new role. But I don't think that's going to happen quickly enough for it to be a problem for me. I think I've got a number of good years left in this role, and I can't imagine wanting to do it. I'm not much of a job hopper. I tend to stay where I am for a while, and this one is the most fun I've had in a long, long time. So I'm sticking with it.
You must have a pretty good to-do list for Second Life still. Ideas that you guys are running over.
Endless. And we've started a process of getting the whole team together, engineering and support people and operations people and marketing people and producers. Everybody gets together every 6 months, and we physically get together in the same place and come up with what we think we're going to focus on for the next 6 months. And that has turned out to be a really great way to generate good ideas. And there's far more on the list than we can do. So we're not going to run out of projects anytime soon.
Well, you guys have been working really hard on improvements as of late. I'm sure everybody in the audience will agree group chat has probably never been so good.
That's been quite an adventure, actually. Group
has
chat.
It?
Yeah.
Because it's not the first time Little Labs tried fixing group chat, obviously, of course.
Right.
There's been a few iterations of it that some better than others, and before this one, you guys were working on it, made it better, and then it just suddenly got worse again somehow.
Yeah, it's one of those multi-layered things. We identify a problem, we go in and make a change to address that problem. The change we made works, but it turns out that right behind that problem, just barely concealed by it, is an entirely different problem that's every bit as bad. And we've just had to sort of tunnel through layers and layers of issues that needed to be addressed, and we're not completely done with that. I think there are more improvements to be made, but we have gotten it to the point where it seems to be good enough to meet the needs of most people, and that's why we've been able to sort of take a break from working on it for a little while and get experiences wound up, and hopefully very, very soon out the door.
It's been group chat certainly has been 90% improved from what it used to be. But so if you had to work out a scale from improvements versus new features, 40-60, 80-20.
Well, you left out fighting fires.
Well,
actually.
Of course. There's
fighting fires is half on a good day. There's pretty much always something that's broken enough that we have to pay a lot of attention to it. And
pulls you away from your schedule.
Well, I mean, it's a major element of our schedule, right? And often when we take the time to attack something, we end up uncovering more problems than we knew about, and that adds to the list of problems. right? We did a survey. A lot of you participated in the survey we did recently about inventory loss, and we got back a lot of very good responses. That we asked people, have you ever experienced inventory loss in Second Life, and if so, what was going on? How much did you lose? Was it whole folders? I forget the whole questionnaire, but we got a lot of great. Many people filled out the survey, thousands. And a lot of people put a lot of good verbiage in there, and we stared at that, and some patterns emerged, and we dug in, and we've found some real serious problems that we've addressed, and some of those haven't quite finished getting out through the deployment process, but we've closed down a lot of problems with inventory. So it's working out really, really well. But that was a project we thought was going to be a pretty quick one, and it has turned out to last several months on and off. And actually, one of our new hires just had, one of the new hires we have on the team recently lost some inventory things, and we fortunately having a developer lose inventory is better, because they can immediately say, freeze everything here. I want to know exactly what happened, and they did, and we're closing one more loophole in the system, so it's great.
I've asked for a few questions for the audience, so if I can start asking some of those. Someone has asked about the development of the Radagast viewer and if it's likely to be updated. But I guess as a third-party viewer, that's down to the developers of Radagast, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that the question really is, will Linden Lab consider doing a text-based viewer?
I think a text-based viewer is almost a misnomer. One of the things that we've talked about is doing text chat gateways that would allow you to participate in various kinds of chat from, say, a web browser. It's something we've talked about. It's not something we've got on the roadmap, but it's possible. Radagast itself, paused development because its principal developer had some health issues that needed attending to, and I certainly hope that that situation improves. We're ready to support the development of third-party viewers of whatever feature set.
Another question from UC Poultry. I understand development of My Second Life has stopped, but could we at least get a button to edit our posts and comments after they post?
Oh, on the feed on the profile.
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing that on the to-do list.
It's a good idea, though.
Yeah.
Add it to the list.
It's it's a long list. Yeah.
But
we've got some other things. We've got some other pretty cool ideas coming on the web space. I'm not sure that the web profile is going to get a lot of attention.
One Angel Cares residents asked, is there a strong element of we will learn from the mistakes of the past with Second Life so we don't repeat them with Sansar over at the lab?
Oh yes. Yeah, it's kind of there's sort of an internal hashtag, fix it in Sansar, that is used all the time, whenever we run into something that's a difficult to work around limitation, and many of the best and most experienced developers from Second Life are working on Project Sansar. So they know from deep and painful experience just how hard some of those limitations are to get around, and are motivated by trying to do something that doesn't have them.
So the old thing about, well, I wouldn't start from here. They don't have to start from here.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And ultimately, that's where the genesis of that project is, that it at some point in the evolution of any technology, it's just much better to go back and start over. And we'll see whether or not in the end they manage to outdo what we've accomplished in Second Life.
It's going to take it'll be quite interesting, because they may have the shiny new engineering, but the thing is being able to persuade communities to move, really.
Right. The communities in Second Life are a huge force. It's packing indeed, and obviously a gigantic market advantage for the lab, for Second Life. That this is where the people are, and it's why it's so much fun to work on, actually.
Windows platform appears going down for games. How long will we stay observing the new official platform? That's from Vladimir Polanski. I'm not quite sure what he's asking. Windows platform going down?
I don't know if I understand the question. He may be referring to the fact that we just relatively recently, 6 months ago or something, discontinued support for Windows XP. That was driven by the fact that the latest generation of tools from Microsoft for building Windows software doesn't support building for XP anymore. And there's just, at some point it becomes too difficult to do the work manually ourselves when we're not getting support from the vendor. So how quickly that will become, how quickly that bar will move again, ask Microsoft. I'm not really sure.
Is Windows 10 supported by the viewers? That could be a question for both of you. Are you working on supporting Windows 10?
There is some problems with Windows 10 right now, but I'm not sure how much of that is. I mean, Windows 10, I believe, is still under development.
Yeah, we're testing on Windows 10. It's not something we would add yet to the "we think this is bulletproof" list.
Yeah, not officially supported just yet.
Right.
We've certainly, found some problems. And how much of that is viewer problems or Windows 10 problems, or even something that we can do anything about, is hard to say just yet.
Right. The user experience seems to, like so many things, vary quite a lot. Some people report that everything is great, and other people report that it's a complete disaster, and pretty much everything in between.
I remember back in the very early days, there was a SIG at the bottom that you could, that was, people chose as their favourite SIG for their emails, which said, "Today it is yesterday it was working. Today it is not working. Windows is like that."
Right.
Linux and Mac people would love to say, all the bad things about Windows, and I think that varies depending on whatever operating system you're on in the first place. Somebody did ask Oz, and you must have known this question was going to come up, 64-bit.
Yeah, I'd really like to do that. I really would. I have. It's always a bit of a struggle in engineering in development of an existing product to make the trade-off between doing something new for the user, something that's visibly a new feature or a fix for an existing problem that is really bothering people, like chat lag, or versus spending time on fixing something that's basically, as far as most users are concerned, under the covers. And you have to strike a balance. You have to do a little bit of both, right? You can't just say, I'm going to spend the next 2 years re-engineering the inside of the viewer so that it's marvelous, modular, elegant architecture, but at the end you're going to have exactly the same features and functionality you have today. Nobody would let me get away with that. I couldn't take the whole team and go do that, especially since it would probably take longer than that. But at the same time, I also can't afford to say we're going to spend all our time and energy doing new shiny stuff and not fix any of the things that are less visible and under the covers. And so I have to do some of both. And I've just been through a big round of devoting a very substantial fraction of our resources to improving the tools that we use to build the viewer with, upgrading to much newer tools and using them in better ways. In order to limit the size of that project, which turned out to be quite a bit bigger than we thought it would, we didn't include going to 64-bit in that list of objectives. But we did drop the crash rate by 2 or 3%.
I wouldn't know because we haven't had stats since.
Okay.
Hint, hint.
I got some shiny new stats coming for you. You'll like.
Oh, that sounds good.
I'm tweaking those, but so at some point I will try to carve off a hunk of resources and get somebody to focus on doing 64-bit support, at least for the Mac and Windows. I'll need help from the community for doing it on Linux, although I'm sure I won't have any trouble getting that particular one from the community.
Actually, that might be difficult. We ourselves have been having problems getting a 64-bit Linux out.
Right. Well, some of the problem cases we're getting around. We're working. We've already talked about the fact that we're working on upgrading the infrastructure we use for doing media on a prim, all the web infrastructure that's built into the viewer, upgrading that to the Chrome embedded framework. That removes some of the things that replaces some of the things that are most difficult to do 64-bit builds for because they're so old. But I'm sure there are others that'll be problematic. So we'll try to get that done at some point. I can't put a timeline on it because we haven't started it.
So another question that came in a little while ago was from Wellington Beam saying, could the new WinLight settings include the return of the sliders for fine tuning?
The people who are currently in charge of specifying what the user interface should be don't like the way the current one is done. So it will certainly be different. Whether it is not my role to specify what the user interface will be. There are people who are, we pay specifically to provide that expertise. And when we get around to doing that, they will spec it out and we'll build it the way they spec it out.
This is on the new platform or
No. This is when we do the next round of development on environment settings.
Oh, I see. You're not changing the interface, though.
We'll probably change the interface, yeah.
Oh, no, don't say that.
Hey, sorry.
Okay. Someone has,
I'm afraid the third-party viewers, mostly fiddle with the interfaces for things. So when we change interfaces, it really is a headache.
It really is a
and
nightmare.
I feel bad about that, but
no, you don't.
I'm going to base
I tried.
a question on something that was raised in the audience. To what extent do you find a need to balance between using giving features that use stuff that you'll probably only find on high-end gaming machines, capabilities that come on fairly high-end gaming machines, and the fact that some viewers, some users of Second Life are still stuck on fairly older machines?
Well, we try not to do anything, especially in the graphics area, that completely excludes people who are on lower end machines. We have a very high percentage of people who are on just simple, Intel integrated graphics on their Windows systems. There are lots of those out there. We don't want to leave them behind. There are features that won't work well for those people, but we're trying hard to make sure that we provide a path for those people to have a reasonable Second Life experience, even if it's not quite as glorious. And that's that's an ongoing challenge. The single biggest thing that people ought to be thinking about if they want to upgrade their Second Life experience in a straightforward way is actually not the graphics card, it's memory. When we look at I was saying that I'm going to get Jessica better stats for Firestorm. One of the new charts that I have is what's the crash rate versus how much memory people have installed, and it really is way better to have more memory. The more memory you have, the better.
That may explain why 64-bit viewers have seemingly a lower crash rate. It's because it utilizes better memory. Oh, you've crashed. Speaking of crashing, Oz has just crashed.
Right. Well, while you're away, perhaps you could answer your voice, but your voice won't be heard by the audience, so that would be a bit sad.
So, while he's coming back, and he'll be able to hear me because he's in the Skype call. So one of the challenges with keeping up with one of the challenges that developers have with coming up with new features and functionality is that there are people on lower-end systems. And so, for an example, you can't actually improve things without, in some way, affecting people on lower-end systems. So Mesh is a good example of that. Mesh came out. A lot of systems can't run Mesh very well. But yet, it's kind of a necessary upgrade to Second Life in many ways. So in some ways, you can either just stagnate and not do anything, and that way people in older systems will still have perfect compatibility with Second Life. But then when people are upgrading, or people with newer systems, they want better graphics, they want better this and better that. It's sort of a double-edged sword, right? You want to improve things, but then you can't if you are going to 100% consider the people in older systems.
Right, and I'm back.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
That materials was another example of that, right?
Materials, yeah.
That was a really nice development for people who had reasonably good graphics systems, and is kind of a nothing for people who didn't. It's in the nature of the changes, right? Overlaying of normal maps and specular maps, for example, that if you've done a good job as a creator, with the diffuse layer, that is the ordinary texture layer, then users who don't have the ability to turn on normal maps and specular maps will still have a pretty good looking thing. It just won't be as full of subtle highlights and shadows as the people who have higher end systems that can handle materials.
Yes, there was, of course, SLGO sadly departed now, which was very good for people. Someone, Joe Yardley, has just raised that we need a Linden version of streaming SL.
Well, there is actually one or two products out there right now that are streaming. Basically doing what SLGO was doing. Bright Canopy being, I think, the most well-known one right now. So, Oz, would Linden Lab consider doing such a thing? Or perhaps already is considering such a thing for Sansar?
Well, I'm not going to say anything
comment?
about what's going on in Project Sansar.
It's always worth a try.
We actually, when SLGO was shutting down, we did have some discussions about whether that was something that we could pick up the ball on, and not their technology specifically, but a streaming interface. And we did one earlier experiment with Gaikai to do it. It's a big job, and it requires some specialized expertise. For the time being, we decided that Bright Canopy and one or two other people seem to be making a go of it, and we're gonna let them see how that goes.
So you're not ruling it out as a possibility down the road?
No, I'm also not. It's also not in the plan at this point. But it would be nice to be able to have a way that people could do that. It's one of those things where the capability of the technology is getting better and better fairly quickly, and maybe it'll get easier for us to do over time. So maybe we'll be able to do it easily and cheaply enough in the future. But in the meantime, we're going to try and support the efforts of the people who are trying it.
Good plan. Yeah, because, I mean, the selling point to me was with SLGO was specifically people on older systems then could still keep up and, in fact, have a better shared experience because essentially they're running Second Life on a more modern system while still being on an old computer.
Right.
They would go a long way
SLGO thought that their big addressable market was going to be people on tablets. And people on tablets did use it, but
it was people on old systems. Yeah,
it turned out it was people on old systems that was the real loyal audience.
Right. So I'm going to take one last question, which is: are there any Second Life, Linden Lab, virtual reality and AR plans?
Well, we're all about virtual reality, but if what you mean is
meaning the Oculus Rift and all that sort of thing.
The Rift and its many cousins, increasing number of cousins, absolutely. We're hard at work on updating the Rift viewer, even as we speak. We should have an updated version of that out pretty soon. Although the developer that's working on it is about to go on vacation, so I don't know whether we'll get it before or after that. But that's the way life is in the summer in North America. So that's coming, and we're very enthusiastic about the various levels of hardware that people are producing for doing that, and we'd like to be able to support as many of them as we can.
Well, we've come to the top of the hour now. I'm conscious that we've dragged Oz away from his desk. Maybe you want me to. Maybe you want to go on talking for another half hour, or
I actually have a pool league I have to go play in pretty soon, so
okay.
that's
Well,
my real life one. This, I'm afraid.
Well, thank you, Oz, very much for joining us today. This has been fascinating, and I think everyone has thoroughly enjoyed it. And Jessica, thank you for joining us too.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
It's been a brilliant talk, and I hope the audience has enjoyed it as much as I have.
It's a lot of fun. I'm always happy to come in and chat with you about how things are going, and I look forward to coming and talking to you about the next blockbuster feature when we roll it out.
Oh yes, we'll have you on Designing Worlds. Okay, so we're wrapping up this talk now, but there's another one at 3 p.m. when we're going to be meeting the designer. And the three designers we're meeting today are Nadia Rosselot of Nard Cortex, Victoria Grau of VG Shoes, and Ebony Khan of House of Hoochie, all of whom are quite keen shoemakers, which is probably why I asked a question about shoes earlier on. Then at 4 p.m. we have the artist Ian Lee Patton, who's a very popular Second Life artist. And finally today we have at 5 p.m. Meet the Community with Milkwood, who are a writers community. And tomorrow we'll have another range of talks, including Meet the Lindens at 1 p.m. And the Lindens will be meeting tomorrow are Patch Linden and Syaoran Linden, I think. Hang on, let me just check. No, it's Patch Linden and D Linden tomorrow. Syaoran's on Wednesday with Peter Linden. So I hope you can all come to those talks. There will be posters outside to tell you all about them. Thank you very much for coming today. Thank you very much to Pet Love Pet Shop, who was our camera woman. This has been this has been recorded with a few hiccups and will be going out on the web later on. And we'll put the address of that up on the primperfect.net website. And we'll embed it in Primperfect. You'll also be able to see it in slartis.com and on YouTube on the Second Life channel. So it should be all around. And thank you also to UC, our stage manager, who's been absolutely brilliant in coping with this huge audience. So thank you very much, UC Galway. Right, and Oz, thank you so much for coming.
It was a lot of fun. Glad to do it. Bye-bye, all.
Bye-bye.
It was very nice of Blair to keep me warm next to me here. Is he still here? Yeah, he's still on the couch with me here. You can't see him? He's still there for me. Or maybe he's just an artifact now. Is he gone now? No, he's just showing up for me now. He's the no. He's got a little dummy avatar on his shoulder.
DD0.
Dummy avatar. Frame avatar.